Hello, guys, and welcome back to Max Talks Football, the FPL pod. It's just me today. We had a bit of a nightmare. We had all the characters on yesterday, Lofty, Dokes, and Jacob, and it didn't record. It was a bit of a disaster, but c'est la vie. We're trying to crack on, and, when stuff is like this in its infancy, we're going to have problems. But just me today. We're going to crack on, though, and I'm going to show you how everyone got on in Game Week 2 in the Rags to Riches League. The code to join my Max Talks Football League will still be all on the video today. So definitely give that a follow and put the code in and get into the league because it's getting nice and competitive in here. Here we are then, a little Game Week 2 recap. We did our Game Week 2 predictions, myself, Lofty and Jacob last week. And we're going to do something like this going throughout the whole season. We're picking the biggest scorer of the week, differential shout for a week, and on the watch list, people and players we're looking at possibly to bring in the future coming weeks, and a flop of the week. And to be fair, guys, the podcast is getting some clout. We nailed all our differential shout last week. Kyron picked a Awoniyi of Nottingham Forest, not Notts Forest. I'll get some peeved off fans, Nottingham Forest fans, if I say Notts Forest. Nottingham Forest. They won 2-1 and Awoniyi scored a goal, 0.8% owned, guys. Now, they've got a really tricky period of fixtures, so probably not one for the future. But, if they can get a better away record this season than they did last season, he may be one to look at. Not quite now, but 0.8% owned. A great shout from Lofty to get that goal and get you, I think, a few bonus points as well. I picked Jota. It's really difficult at the minute to pick who's going to play in that Liverpool front line. News just in as well. I don't know how reliable it is, but Salah has been made a very, very good offer from Saudi Arabia. So will he leave before the window? I suspect not. But obviously, when he was throwing off his bandages, I think, away at Chelsea, is there a bit of tension there with Klopp? I'm not too sure. Yeah, I picked Jota. 2.8% owned. I think he was around, definitely below 3% at the time of recording. And he got a goal and an assist. As I said, you're not too sure, along with Diaz, Jota, Nunez, Salah. And I know there's someone else I've missed out, Gakpo, I think it is. You're not sure who's going to play across that front three. So it is a bit of a risk. But Jota, whenever he plays, he was brilliant at Wolves and has been brilliant at Liverpool so far with goal and assist and a few bonus points as well. And excuse me, and Jacob picked Mbeumo. A little bit more owned, 10.1% when we recorded this. So I gave him a little bit of a leniency under the rule of 10% being a differential. But he has been the standout 6.5 million midfielder. I have Mitoma. He's been a good pick. But Mbeumo scored 2 penalties and another goal this week. He scored 2 goals and 3 bonus points with 16 points, the highest scoring player of the week. As you can see in that team of the week. You had Vicario in goal, Estepinian, who started on flames this season, Aurier and Digne, the FPL troll himself, Digne, getting 10 points. As I said, Mbeumo with 16 points. Solly March, who started on flames, everyone going for the highly owned Mitoma. March has actually scored more than Mitoma. Bailey, again, one from last year. He's also got 14 points. He's had a good week in Game Week 2 and got involved in the goals in the Europa League yesterday against Hibernian, and Jota there, as I said, with Wissa and Antonio up front. Flops of the week, Lofty nailed it. Haaland, really big shout that. Haaland at home to Newcastle, had a few half chances. Foden played immaculately well, excellently creating a few chances, but Haaland just snatched at a few of his chances and only scored 2 points. So a lot of people captained him, including myself. So a great shout from Lofty with the flop of the week. I picked Isak. City away, not exactly a flop, but a lot of people, and still now people transferring him in. So his price has gone up, I think, once or twice, and he also blanked. So quite happy with that shout. And again, he's got a few tricky fixtures coming up, but I'm sure he's going to be one we're going to be thinking about in the future because their fixtures do turn, I think, around Game Week 5 or 6. Jacob's team's up first. A very good week for him. We'll sort it by who got the most Game Week 2 points. 76. A great bounce back from him. He's second in the league. with 149 points. Turner in goal. Edison on his bench actually got a clean sheet, so that was the wrong decision, but you can see why he did that. Shaw, Saliba, Estepinian at the back. Shaw with only 1 point, but Saliba and Estepinian returning. And Burmo, Saka, Mitoma, Odegaard and Salah across the midfield. Salah captain. And now I know owners will be a little bit peeved off because he took the penalty and missed and scored the rebound. So I think you get a -2 for the missed penalty. Yeah, he definitely outscored Haaland, I beg your pardon. So it was a good captaincy shout. But yeah, Liverpool fans and maybe Salah captainers maybe feel a little bit aggrieved because that little bit of a differential captain would have really projected you up the league if you hadn't missed that penalty. Odegaard, talking of penalties, took a penalty ahead of Saka against Palace, a player I have as well. Interesting quotes from Arteta, which came out after the game, saying that he didn't know about Odegaard taking the penalty off Saka. Not too sure what to believe of that. This guy was assistant manager to Pep Guardiola. Very detailed coach now at Arsenal. So I'm not too sure about that. But as an Odegaard owner, myself and Jacob were very happy with that choice. And then up front, Haaland and João Pedro, not much to write home about there. João Pedro has had a little boost yesterday because Enciso apparently has a knee injury. So I've jumped at the chance to get rid of João Pedro already. West Ham home next game. That might be a poor decision. We'll see going forward. The fixtures do stiffen up a little bit. But João Pedro maybe, having been benched this week and getting a yellow card, maybe in line for a start. And look, they paid 40 million for him. So, he's going to play games. And if Enciso obviously is injured, then you would think that number 10 spot will be up for him. Jacob did take a -4. Salah and Mbeumo in. So, I mean, the -4 was richly taken care of because, he's ended up with 26 points minus the 4, 22-point swing. So that was a very good decision for him. Coming on to Lofty's team, he is top of the league. God, flipping out. I'm getting it in the neck, showing off all weekend. 66 points for him. Turner in goal. Similar back three, however, he's got Akanji, Saliba, Estepinian, Akanji. Akanji seems nailed on at the minute in the Man City back line. Whether that will change or not with Champions League football will remain to be seen. 7 points for him. They have Sheffield United away at the minute, and you would think that's a banker for the Man City defence for a clean sheet. So if Akanji starts in that could be another good score for him. Mitoma, Salah, Rashford, Saka, again, pretty template midfield. However, he had Foden, and Foden probably for me was the most impressive player of the game weekend. Maybe not in his points, 9 points, great return, but the performance. He created so many chances. He was playing in the number 10 rather than out wide or false 9 or on the left. He was fantastic, getting in on the half turn, creating so many chances for not only himself, but also for Haaland and other players. We do have the news that Jeremy Doku is coming in and signing, and Bernardo Silva is back fit. Alvarez and Foden are the two, I think, on many people's shopping list. How many minutes will they get going forward? I'm not sure, but I can completely understand for players out there who want to jump on the Foden bandwagon straight away because he was so impressive. Obviously, we mentioned Salah and his penalties. Will he still be on penalties? I know Szoboszlai, if I've not butchered that name, has a very good penalty record. Look, I think Salah's a bit of a talisman, or he is a talisman at Liverpool. I would expect him to stay on penalties, but he has missed a few in his last 4 or 5, so could be a little bit of pressure from other players. Practicing him in training, you never know. We'll have to wait and see. And once again, Haaland and João Pedro up front. Not much to write home about, but a very good week off the back of last week for Lofty. Dokes, who's not been on the channel yet, like I said, he was on yesterday, but we had a bit of a mare with recording. Current Swindon FC, Swindon Town player, gone viral in the last couple of weeks for singing an unbelievable initiation song at Swindon with John Legend tweeting him or reposting him on Instagram. He had a good week as well, 57 points Areola in goal, interesting. 10 points. Saved a penalty, obviously, against Enzo for Chelsea. That's where those points are coming from. Very good for him. Estepinian, Trent, and Saliba. Trent with an orange flag on him and only 2 points. He was definitely in my first draft, Trent. I think he was in a lot of people's first draft. It's just not happened for him at the minute. I was worried about him playing. I was worried about clean sheets for Liverpool, which has kind of rung true with games against, was it Chelsea and Bournemouth? No clean sheets thus far, and no assists for Trent. So he's also orange flagged. So I'm sure Dokes probably will have plans to get rid of him. Maybe this week if he's got 2 free transfers. Martinelli and Saka with a clean sheet each, only 3 points. Bowen, Rashford, and Mitoma. Bowen, interesting one, differential there. No return, but again, Mitoma, reliable Mitoma, looks like is propping up that midfield. But Haaland captain again, with Isak on the bench, probably a good decision in the end. As we said, Isak and Newcastle fixtures will turn quite soon, so definitely one for future game weeks, but a good solid week for him. He moves up, if I have a look back, to 5th, or he moves down to 5th, but a very, very solid start. My team, 55 points. Story of my week was obviously Haaland, captain. Lofty warning me he would blank. I didn't really know who else to captain this week, so it was a bit of a solid one. Solid decision for me not coming off. Akanji points on the bench is quite frustrating, and the problem I've got at the minute is I've got 4 very good defenders who I all want to play. Saliba, Estepinian, Chilwell, and Akanji, and I've left Akanji out last week, and it's kind of bitten me on the arse a little bit. Bruno, Turner in goal. Bruno, Saka, Odegaard, Mitoma, Rashford again. Pretty template. Very happy and surprised with the Odegaard penalty, which we've mentioned. Will he be on penalties going forward? I hope so, but I wouldn't bank on it. If the quotes are true from Arteta, then Odegaard, as we said, just asked for the penalty off Saka and got it. João Pedro, a blank again. Quite similar teams between us 4 with a few differentials in there. But yeah, Haaland captain was the story of my week. Akanji, Onana on the bench who didn't keep a clean sheet. And yeah, it was a bad week on the Sunday, and the Arsenal boys managed to turn it around a little bit. I know a lot of people got Saliba, but the Odegaard penalty really did boost me up the rankings. On to game week 3, guys. Some highlighted fixtures I've done there. Chelsea at Luton. Now, Chelsea's next games, I think 7 or 8, are very, very attractive indeed. Starting off with Luton at home on Friday night. I've highlighted Arsenal at home to Fulham. Fulham's XG has been, I think, in the bottom 3 or 4. So I have got a problem because Saliba and Akanji are the ones I'm looking at to bench. And Saliba, you would think Marco Silva's Fulham team, very, very attacking last year, just haven't really got it going this year, maybe because of the Mitrovic departure. And then I've also highlighted, of course, Sheffield United, Manchester City. But coming back to those Chelsea fixtures, if I just run through them now, if I get them up on my phone. Luton up next, AFC Wimbledon, the Cup, we'll ignore that. Nottingham Forest at home, Bournemouth away, Villa home, which is quite tricky, Fulham away, Burnley away. So you would think a whole raft of Chelsea assets coming into a lot of teams this week. We'll get to transfer plans for myself and the boys in a minute, and that will probably be proved correct. But yeah, and it kind of reflects in our predictions. I've gone for Chilwell, biggest point scorer this week. He got dragged off after 60 minutes against West Ham, quite frustratingly for owners like myself. But I fancy him to be one of the biggest scorers. Can score or assist. He's playing left wing at the minute. And of course, if we get a clean sheet at Luton, which as a Chelsea fan, I'm hoping that we do and expecting that we do. But we haven't been too great at home for the last 12, 18 months. He can get bonus points and clean sheet points as well. So 4 ways or 3 ways, goals, assists and clean sheets, that he could get access to points. So he was my biggest point scorer. 2 of the boys, Lofty and Jacob, have gone with Haaland. No surprise there. Sheffield United away. have struggled in their first 2 games, not much XG going forward, and have conceded a lot of big chances. You would fancy Haaland to have a field day there. And Dokes has gone for Son, interestingly enough. Son, a bit of a differential. He's got Bournemouth away. Obviously, with the departure of Harry Kane, he's taken the armband. And we saw Richarlison playing up front in the last 2 games and Son playing on the left with Maddison in the middle and Kulusevski on the right. Differential shouts. Again, I would be jumping on the Chelsea assets if you've had a bad start to the season. Sterling, for me and Lofty, we have produced is well below 5%, I think. And as a midfielder at 7 million, he had a very good performance at West Ham, even if it didn't result in any goals. I think he won the penalty. So he looked very, very good. And a lot of Chelsea fans around me in my bubble have been slating him this season and last season. And yes, he hasn't lived up to that price tag of 50 million yet. But from Man City, he had a structure around him where he could get at the back post and score tap-ins. But he's a very, very good footballer. And I'd expect him to score lots of points. And I'd expect not many teams to have him. Jacob's gone with Alvarez. I really like that shout as well. I assume people will jump on Foden more than Alvarez, as Alvarez is a striker in the game, but only 6.5, 6.6 million. Maybe he's gone up in price. He is a very, very good shout. And Szoboszlai for Dokes. Szoboszlai, will he be on penalties, as we discussed already? Newcastle away, they're a tricky fixture, definitely. So I wouldn't write home about that one. I could be wrong. On the watch list, I've picked Richarlison. I think they're... I'm looking at Tottenham assets, in the next couple of weeks. I'm kind of loaded up, as you'll see in a minute, on Chelsea assets. We have 2. So yeah, Lofty's gone for Odegaard. Obviously, he's been attention drawn by that penalty. But the reason why I picked Odegaard over Martinelli for that 0.5 million more expensive, I just thought with these referees and the way games are going on now, 95, 99, 100, 105 minutes some games, he's nailed on to play a lot of those minutes, where Martinelli sometimes, he's a more explosive asset, but can maybe come off after 70, 75 minutes. I wanted Odegaard to play the whole game and therefore maybe more chance of getting returns. So Lofty's looking at him. Jacob on Chilwell, I imagine he'll probably come in. And Dokes is looking at Diaz, who's made a really good start to the season. Scored in both games, I think. One against Chelsea. And a lovely little finish against Bournemouth. Little overhead sidekick. And Man United assets dominate our flop of the week predictions. I think we're a little bit biased here. Lofty's gone for Fernandes, who he doesn't have. I've gone for Rashford, who I'm getting rid of, as you'll see in a minute. I still have Fernandes. I think Fernandes at 8.5 million at the beginning of the season. We were all saying, that's great value, and should prove, great value over the season and a great point scorer. They've been poor in the first 2 games. I've been really disappointed with them. I thought that midfield of Casemiro, Mount and Bruno would be very mobile and very hard-working. Casemiro's come back a little bit overweight, I'd say, diving into tackles in that Wolves game. Couldn't believe what I was watching in that Wolves game. Wolves dominated that game. Don't know how they didn't win that game. But with the injury to Mount now, will Bruno get moved forward from an 8 into a 10? Maybe they'll go with a double pivot next to Casemiro and play with a 10. Maybe an Eriksen, a more creative, deep-lying player with Bruno in front. So yeah, Lofty's predicting Bruno to flop. I'm predicting Rashford along with Jacob to flop. And Dokes is saying Salah away at Newcastle. That could be a good shout. Newcastle, very solid at the back. Have Champions League football, of course, to deal with this season. And, put up a decent fight against Man City. Had their moments, had a few breakaways where I think Callum Wilson could have made a better decision and slipped the overlap in. I can't remember, maybe Almiron off the back of, at the top of my head, I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely not an easy trip that will be to Newcastle and St James's Park. Game week 3 and plans. We have a huge debate at the minute in the group chat and on the podcast. It is like pulling teeth to get people to send their teams in. A lot of the boys do make their transfers early. I normally wait until Friday. I'm a bit regretful, as you'll see in a minute, why I made my transfers too early this week. So Jacob has refused, because we've got a head-to-head league as well, to throw his team into the mix. This is actually incorrect. Lofty has taken out Salah, not Bruno. So he's taken out Salah and Pedro of Brighton and Hove Albion and brought in Son and Jackson. I really like the Jackson pick, as we discussed. You see in the middle there, Chelsea at the top of the fixture ticker in the next 3 games. Luton, Forest, Bournemouth. Couldn't really ask for better fixtures from an attacking point of view. So jumping on a Chelsea striker is a no-brainer for me. Jacob won't reveal his team. I think off the top of my head, he's got a Salah decision to make. Whether he comes out, I'm pretty sure he will. But obviously, he's not got 2 free transfers, having taken a -4 last week. So, yeah, as we can see from the fixture ticker there, Fulham, Sheffield United, West Ham and Brighton. Brighton being the key one there for me and the boys. Their fixtures are taking a very big decline after this week. West Ham at home, you'd say, is a good fixture. But a lot of us were tripled up with Estepinian, Mitoma and João Pedro up front. So you may need to start trimming away your Brighton assets. But they are a fantastic team. They're my favourite team to watch in the league. De Zerbi, I'm a huge fan of. And yeah, like you might not see those fixtures, Man United and Newcastle, as too tricky. So you could stick with them. Anana back in for Lofty, Forest at home. I think that's a pretty obvious. Mitoma, so we'll go through from the back. Anana in goal, Saliba, Estepinian, Akanji. I can see a lot of points coming from those 3. Mitoma, Saka, Rashford, Foden, Son. Son with Bournemouth away. And again, those fixtures look good. Bournemouth, Burnley, Sheffield United in the next 3 for Son. I can see why he's doing that. And Jackson and Haaland captain up front. On to myself and Dokes. Dokes has jumped on Chilwell and Son also. He had that Trent Alexander-Arnold problem, and he's decided to take Rashford and Trent out. That's going to free up a lot of money for him going forward in the future, I think. So Bowen has been benched. We have Areola in goal against Brighton. I'm not too sure about that decision, but he doesn't seem to have a great goalie on the bench. So Estepinian, Chilwell, Saliba, another brilliant back 3 there. Martinelli, Mitoma, Son and Saka. So double up of the Arsenal assets in midfield. Fulham at home, as I said, you would expect 2+ goals for Arsenal and Arteta's men in that game. And 3 up front. I like to see a different formation. We have Haaland captain, Sheffield United away. João Pedro still in this team, which I really, really like, as we alluded to earlier, and Ciso injured. And Isak at home to Liverpool. On paper, a tough game, but Liverpool, like we have said, are a bit leaky. They don't really have a natural holding midfielder. Obviously, they signed the boy, the Japanese boy who escapes me, from Germany. He seems like an industrious and experienced 30-year-old midfielder. Will he replace Fabinho, Henderson or Milner? Those 3 players, losing them all in one window, has left them a bit exposed, and obviously missing out on Caicedo, who would have been the perfect replacement, has kind of left them a bit exposed at the back, and that's probably why I see them conceding a few more goals than they did last season. On to myself, straight in with Foden and Jackson. Foden's got great fixtures. For right now, I think his minutes are safe. Going forward, when Champions League comes in, we'll have to reevaluate that. But Jackson comes straight in for me. Luton at home. I think he's worked really hard, Jackson. Missed a couple of nice chances against Liverpool and West Ham, but I think he's making lots of runs and getting in the right positions. And I think goals will be around the corner. I think only 12 goals in La Liga last season. He's young, and no doubt I think Chelsea will be in the market for a striker still, even though he spent about £1 billion on our team. Rumours of Pochettino talking to Lukaku and integrating him back in. I don't know how true they are. He could be an asset which could come good, but I think a lot of Chelsea fans don't really want Lukaku back, having said what he said in that interview last season, and have going to Inter and kind of making it clear that he wanted to re-sign for Inter. So I've got a very big benching decision this week. Akanji's on my bench at the minute, and Sheffield United way is just a complete banker for a clean sheet. He's not a banker to start. Diaz, Stones is out. Diaz, Ake, all these kind of things. but I just don't know what to do. Estepinian and Chilwell offer so much attacking threat. If their clean sheet doesn't come in, you still could get 6, 8, 10 points plus. So I'm kind of thinking about rotating with Saliba. But Saliba's an absolute Rolls Royce back there, and Fulham have not been great going forward this season. So that could go down to the wire, and I may just have to swallow that. I'm going to have some points on the bench. Bruno Fernandes I've kept hold of. I've got rid of Rashford instead. Bruno, Saka, Odegaard, Matoma, Foden. I really like that midfield. And going forward, it's going to be strong. The only problem I do have next week in game week 4, Arsenal play United at home, I think. So I will have Saliba, Saka, Odegaard, Onana and Fernandes all playing against each other. Not ideal. I may have to back the Arsenal boys in that fixture and maybe bench Saliba. I'm backing Arsenal boys and then saying I'll bench Saliba. So not great, but I think over the next 4 or 5 games, I will get repaid by players like Odegaard and Bruno. So I may have to just swallow a pretty poor game week 4. But game week 3 looks good, guys. Turner, Akanji, Osula and Kabore on the bench. Luton didn't play in game week 2 because they're still trying to upgrade their ground. But I think all those players on the bench play and are starting at the minute. Whether they will in the future, I'm not too sure about Osula. But yeah, I'm happy with the team going forward. And yeah, I'm hoping for a good week. Guys, it's been lovely to chat to you. I apologise that there's no more people on this podcast. We will get characters and this podcast will run throughout the season, as we said last week. Please like, comment and subscribe. Ask me if you've got a benching problem this week. Who are you backing? Are you backing Foden or Julian Alvarez? That's a big decision this week. And are you jumping off the Man United assets? Yes. Like, comment, and subscribe to Max Talks Football on YouTube, please. And this will go out as a podcast on Spotify and on Apple. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.